Carlson tonight. We're taking a deeper dive for the next hour beneath the headlines into some of the issues that influence the way America is changing. First tonight, when Robert Mueller's final report on Russia came out this spring, the geniuses on television had one word for it: damning. Truly and completely damning. So damning you could block the Colorado River with it and create your own hydropower. It was that damning. Watch.
The report contains a potentially damning list of ways the president tried to, quote, influence the investigation.
Arguing that the Mueller report is far more damning.
And it's not pretty. It is an ugly, damning piece of business.
I agree with him that it's absolutely damning.
Democrats say the report is damning.
Report from the special counsel is more damning than all those reports.
Far more damning to the president than the attorney general initially indicated.
But it's still very damning.
As we told you, damning. And that's what the geniuses concluded before a single one of them had even read the report. In fact, they still haven't read it, but eventually other people did read it or skim it, and those people let our trusted television journalists know that actually Mueller's report really didn't say very much. There was no collusion in it, much less treason. There wasn't much of anything, actually. It was disappointing. So at that point, the media and their masters in the Democratic Party had a choice to make. They could have moved on and started worrying about America's actual problems. There are many of those. Or they could double down on a weak hand and demand that Robert Mueller come testify before Congress. As you know, they chose the latter. Mueller himself did not want to participate in any of this. He didn't see the point of it. But Democrats insisted. And so this Wednesday, Mueller shuffled up to Capitol Hill. Democrats prodded him like a zoo animal, hoping that he would transform suddenly into Clarence Darrow and deliver an epic speech denouncing Trump as a traitor to our nation and a war criminal. But he didn't do that. So California's Ted Lieu pushed him. Lieu tried to make Mueller explain that even though he did not indict Donald Trump, Trump should still be in prison.
And I'd like to ask you, the reason again that you did not indict Donald Trump is because of OLC opinion stating that you cannot indict a sitting president, correct?
That is correct.
Ooh, get it? Orange Mussolini was a criminal all along. Mueller never said Trump committed a crime in his report. He also didn't say that in his press conference or in his opening statement. But finally, Ted Lieu was able to extract the truth from Robert Mueller. President Trump is a criminal. Except not. A few hours later, Mueller backtracked and clarified that he had not called the president a criminal. Watch.
Now, before we go to questions, I want to add one correction to my testimony this morning. I want to go back to one thing that was said this morning by Mr. Lieu, who said, and I quote, "You didn't charge the president because of the OLC opinion." That is not the correct way to say it. As we say in the report, and as I said at the opening, we did not reach a determination as to whether the president committed a crime.
As we say in the report, and as I said at the opening, in other words, Mueller wasn't saying anything new. He was just repeating what he'd been saying for months. But Congressman Ted Lieu was not convinced by this. Indeed, Ted Lieu smelled a rat. There had to be a reason that Robert Mueller was unwilling to disavow 2 years of work and all of his prior statements to produce a Democratic talking point for Ted Lieu. What could the reason be? Ted Lieu had a pretty good idea. Clearly, the Russians had gotten to Mueller too.
You were at the center yesterday of one of the most dramatic moments of the hearings with Robert Mueller. He had to walk back his testimony to you in response to your questioning.
It wasn't until there was a recess in the Intel committee that he started to walk some of that back. I don't know who got to him. I don't know who talked to him, but that was very odd what he did.
Well, what are you suggesting? Are you saying he only did that because of pressure from someone?
I don't know, but he clearly answered the way he answered to me, and then he had numerous times to walk that back. So I don't really understand what happened.
Now, to be clear, and this is a diagnosis, this is how crazy people talk. Tinfoil Ted is a nutcake. He's like your cousin who's convinced the moon landing was faked on a soundstage. Ted Lieu thinks he's got secret knowledge that explains everything. How'd the Russians get to Robert Mueller? Was it a cash bribe in rubles? Could it have been brainwashing? Are they holding some of his kids hostage in Lubyanka prison? Hopefully one of our dutiful congressional correspondents will ask Ted Lieu for details. We'd like to know. But first, it might be worth checking in with Lieu's colleague, Eric Swalwell. If you think Ted Lieu has gone around the bend, and he has, you haven't listened to Swalwell recently. He sets the standard. Listen to Eric Swalwell explain that Vladimir Putin is somehow controlling our voting machines. Watch this.
I fear that we are more vulnerable than we were in 2016 because Russia and other countries will see the United States is open for business when it comes to interference.
Well, do you worry that the Russians have developed the capability to actually change vote counts in the United States?
Yes.
Yes. And to think there are people who believe we should legalize hallucinogenic mushrooms. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. It's sad as hell to watch, actually. But it's also unnerving because adult political parties must exist in tangible reality. The Democratic Party no longer does. For 2 years, they've accused anyone who's ever read a Tolstoy novel of being a Russian agent, and they mean it. Stacey Abrams announced that she's the real governor of Georgia after losing by 50,000 votes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told us recently that border enforcement is actually a plot to build Nazi death camps in America, and so on. These are not minor figures in the Democratic Party. These are its leaders. What's going to happen when these people get to run the country? Buck Sexton is the host of the Buck Sexton Show, a frequent guest on our show, and we're always glad to have him.